Hey y'all, welcome to the Logic Loop, the podcast where strategy meets story and community drives growth.
This is your space for bite-sized, high-impact conversations on marketing, entrepreneurship, and the tech shaping our industry.
I'm Faith Boone, founder of Boone Logic, and my co-host is the wonderful Sam Hale, Boone Logic's digital content director. And today we're talking about how we use AI in our industry.
And joining us today is Logic Loop guest Rachel Randall, strategy director at CreativeFuse. Welcome, Rachel. We're so excited to have you.
Hi, Faith. Hi, Sam. Thank you for that intro. And I'm so excited to be here and really dig in. My role as a strategy director at CreativeFuse, this topic comes up all the time. I was actually just talking with some clients the other day about it. So I'm really excited to dig in.
I'm excited to kind of chat a little bit about the different reactions also that we get from clients with AI, because it can be a very polarizing topic.
Absolutely. I'd say that for us, I've really seen both sides of that spectrum. So, and I guess I guess I'll back up and say that I understand where the motivation comes from in both instances. So, for the folks who are maybe a little anxious about it, or they're not sure what it is, how it works, whether it is beneficial, whether they're already left in the dust and they have no, if they haven't already jumped on, the wagon, they're it's too late. Yeah. Versus the folks who are very much all in and what I think the AI industry calls super users, where they are experimenting and they're trying every, different potential use case for AI. And so I think from our perspective, I think it's informed by how quickly this industry is forming and the different capabilities that are emerging and the ways that the more common use cases that are starting to emerge for these technologies. We've, as an agency, have always approached it with some what I would call kind of a conservative approach to it. And that is one where, we discourage the notion that you have to be all in all at once, that AI is this thing that you have to get on the train or you're going to be left at the station forever, just stranded, and you're not going to be able to compete. You're not, because I think there's a very big temptation, almost like a FOMO. And wanting to make sure that you are on the cutting edge, that you're with your competitors doing everything you can, and AI is changing everything. So am I in this? But we're also exercising caution and advising our clients in the ways that they use AI smartly. And while there's this big push for the end result in marketing, let's say the output, the thing you're executing on, the asset, the final creation that's going into market. And oh gosh, isn't it so incredible that this tool can produce things that we've just never seen a machine be able to produce. But when you start to look at some of the data for, are these creative assets actually converting? Are they as effective as human-made creative? That's where I'm questioning, in the end, everybody is wanting to get the most out of their marketing dollars that they possibly can. And so there is this huge temptation to want to become more efficient by using some of these tools. Makes sense, 100%. But is the long-term cost of having that strategy one where you're just reallocating the dollars and you're not actually creating things that are converting, and so therefore wasting more money or more resources in the end?
I really think you have to tread carefully. I'm just going to be real vulnerable right now. First and foremost, I'm going to apologize to Sam and the rest of our team for infiltrating our lives with AI agents.
Oh my goodness.
So
the Slack was crazy.
I'm not going to name the application that we were using that I was testing this with, but it very generously, for the price of free, allowed me to start building AI agents. I'm already funneling money into this app, so sure, give me some free AI agents. I've been hearing some tricklings about AI agents and how anyone can build one. And I'm just like, well, sure. I mean, I'm just prompting the AI to build an AI. So sure, let's do this. Dear God, our Slack is now inundated with a bunch of notifications about the same task written in different ways. The AI started sending emails without my permission. I see, though, that there was potential for this to work. I don't have the time to be building proper AI agents. I spent a lot of time building 3 agents that I've now turned off.
Yes.
And it's not just like me trying it on my own. We've had clients that have required us to use AI, that have told us that we're not allowed to bring the human element to it anymore, that part of your paycheck is being taken away because of AI. I too realize that you have to find ways to work with it because it's in everything.
100%. And it's been that way for a while. I think that we've put a lot of emphasis on the last several years because that is, you know, like that's the big way. I think it's like where people became like more just commercially aware of this product and this offering that was kind of operating at as an underlayer on certain parts of our digital lives previously, and now is like pushed to the forefront because like look what it can do. Oh gosh, I really dislike that like concrete reality, like that's kind of almost put in front of you, where like it's a framing of part of your paycheck is now being and that is tremendously, you know, I think the fear for a lot of folks within this industry. That said, like I've been watching just people, the actual people that all of this creative is meant for, you know, and like how they are responding and like what data is telling us about these types of creation in market. And it's not paying off. Even if you could scale and like triple your output with these tools, you're not seeing the like hard conversion numbers that properly like created, crafted, human-led content still does. And so that's telling me that like we're not dead yet. And in fact, I am hypothesizing that there is going to be this premium on human-led creative for the folks that do stick it out, that do learn how to adapt some of their processes, and then can recognize what's slop and what's worthy.
Right.
Because that's what it's good at. It's not good at being able to tell the difference at all.
I was going to say what I see a lot of now, which you said it perfectly, the way CreativeFuse kind of addresses it is you went in with intention of kind of observing what was going on, really thinking through how to use things. I feel like you're seeing a lot of people, they have the FOMO, like they're jumping in so quick to try to use AI for everything. And a lot of it is turning into that finished product that they're putting out is a generation from whatever platform they use. They put in the prompt, it puts together the graphic, and they just put it out there.
Yeah.
And like you just mentioned, I'm seeing overwhelmingly people do not like that. If they can identify something as just completely AI, they're immediately shut off from it. And so it's already, I think we're shifting towards people are starting to really be hungry for and look for the human elements where it's like they still have that connection. They know a person was still part of it. And all these people that may have not wanted to get left behind and kind of felt forced into shifting over to this, allocating those marketing dollars, but the way they're using it isn't what is causing conversions, isn't what their audience is looking for.
From like an ethical perspective, and then also just a practical perspective, like for really small agencies such as ourselves, we don't want to necessarily like co-op the creative work to a robot, but I'm never going to be able to afford a PA. And so like what things would I normally cede to a personal assistant that could be made a little bit easier. Now, What I'm trying to figure out is how do we avoid the just inundate, like my life is already 10 million notifications. And I have learned, like in my current environment, like the setup we have now, which is, you know, a non-AI assisted project management system in Slack and a few other tools, you know, do we invite in that agent to help run things? Do we spend resources maybe building something? And is it going to give us the amount of like payoff that we're expecting? Like if we're going to pour 80 hours of dev into a custom tool that can like run things in the background, but won't send emails to clients without my permission.
Right.
Yeah.
That's terrifying, by the way. Like that's the part where I'm just like, I cannot hand that over. Like I don't want to give the keys to something that I can't fully trust in that.
Get this. So the paper that we have here in Cleveland is the Plain Dealer, which is the digital form of it is cleveland.com. The editor-in-chief of the Plain Dealer wrote a letter from the editor. So he wrote a letter from himself to the public announcing the use of AI in their articles and how he is proud of it, how it's kind of a waste of time for people to be going to college. Not kind of. He said it's a waste of time for people to be going to college for a journalism degree. I'm appalled. This is the city's paper.
Yeah.
I am appalled. I don't care if you know this. I am appalled. The outlet that I write for, we don't use AI. We will never use AI to write anything. And me getting out there and getting the information is so that a human can explain to another human what is going on.
Yep.
I'm not looking for a cookie cutter. I'm not looking for an AI to tell me what happened and to not cite the sources correctly, to not ethically be putting together something that has been written.
There's already, I mean, even I used to work in journalism, but I mean, even then, which was all before AI, people don't trust the news. Like that shift it's always been there to some degree, but shifting more and more away from, they didn't trust it to begin with, to blatantly come out and say, basically a robot's going to be writing the article. Here you go. It's just degrading that even more. And I think that's where you need to be so intentional. There's places where AI can be useful, can be a tool. And then there's places where it should not be.
Yeah. I think your example, Faith, about, you know, like the eroding trust that's being introduced by like at the announcement of those policies, kind of like the casualness or the, you know, even the pride that's behind that decision.
Yeah.
It makes me think about like brands run the same risk of eroding that trust by putting out things into market that feel very AI. Like, you know, if public is technically against it. And I think there's been kind of this growing understanding that the rise of AI comes with the rise of costs and the rise of maybe like sustainability issues. And, you know, like there are costs beyond just the actual, like, you know, this human no longer has a job, and that, you know, I think people are associating all of that with like this output. And so a brand who's maybe not being as intentional with how AI is being used on their behalf or how they are showing up in market, and it feels very AI, because now we can recognize that. It's like an insult, right? Like, oh, that was generated by AI. It's just like, it's completely reduced the type of output to nothing, because it takes nothing to create it. There's nothing of in it because it takes 2 seconds.
I actually had someone I know, they told me how they were able to record themselves talk for like 30 seconds, and then they can create AI videos of themselves where it says all the rest of it. And like, I probably knew this was a thing already, but like to hear people talking about it and using it, and then now it's showing up in my feed, which obviously AI is listed.
What is this for? Like practical talk, like beyond just like the fun novelty of it, right? Because like I can name 10,000 apps that have come out in the last 10 years that are like fun filters or fun, like, you know, things. And all of it is fine to a certain point, but then it fizzles out and it's nothing because like the novelty's gone. And so like, it's not going to totally replace like people actually talking into a camera and recording content on a video. It might replace some of that, but we're already seeing how that's not converting or being effective in market.
Yeah.
So it's either that like people will shift their tastes, which I think is far harder to do.
Mhm.
Or again, like I think we're going to have like it's going to be split. You're going to have folks that are going to be using it for creative output, and it's going to be very noticeable, and it's going to be cheaper. It's going to be kind of like how people use stock images all the time for like, you know, their whole website, right? Like there's no custom photography on it. It feels very forced, but it's a cheaper option than having somebody design it or have somebody write it, you know, from scratch. But I think, you know, for our industry, one, it kind of comes with this yellow flag of like, if you're going to use this, you really do need to understand like what the potential impact to your brand, to your perception, to all those things could be, because it's not, it could be reputational harm. It could be saying a thing and putting it out and not fact checking it, and then you have to walk it back, and your audience is like, well, they don't know what the heck they're talking about now. My hope is that we don't all just become prompt engineers, that there's like a layer of this that makes sense and that we can introduce to our process to make the work go faster where it makes sense.
Yeah.
But then to not rush through parts of it where it doesn't make sense and where the quality will actually suffer if we do rush.
What I think is interesting is, and you briefly mentioned it, Rachel, is it started off where people were so excited because for smaller businesses or solopreneurs who didn't have the money or the resources to be able, you know, to put together this huge polished project that would take a big team, they could use AI to then put that out. And we still have the issues of like, okay, but to put this fully AI generated thing out, like, is that going to connect with your audience? But people were making the argument that this is making things more accessible for people who previously didn't have the resources to do it.
Yeah.
But it didn't just stop there. I mean, I even think back to this past Super Bowl and the Coca-Cola commercial.
Yep.
People were infuriated because it was so clearly AI, the entire thing. It's Coca-Cola. They got the money. Like,
Yeah.
so they're looking at it. They're like, this is for how much money you pay to have a Super Bowl commercial, first off. Like, just to have the spot, you're putting in all of that money. You could have supported, you know, human workers, graphic designers, animators, all of that to put together a product. And Super Bowl commercials, I mean, as a kid, I grew up, we watched for the commercials. Like, they used to be the top tier entertainment.
Yeah.
And they made the decision, probably because just jumping on the bandwagon of everyone else being like, AI is the future. And people were furious because they identified it was AI. It wasn't up to the quality that they expected from Super Bowl commercials. People were also, which I was so heartwarming to see, people upset thinking about the jobs that weren't given to humans because they recognized how much better, quite frankly, it would have been if you let people, their creativity and like that human element into it.
Right.
So we're at that interesting spot where it's like you can't even use the argument that you did what you could with the resources you had, because that's a company, that's just one example. A lot of people are doing it, but that's one example of someone who had plenty of resources.
Yeah.
And they still chose that despite the fact that that's not what's converting. That's not what people want to see. And I mean, they're a big enough name. I don't think people are going to stop drinking their Coca-Cola for it, but
sure,
if you keep doing it, what's that going to do in the long run?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, what is that reputational harm worth to you? Is it worth what you're saving in efficiency? Maybe. But no, I think those are terrific points.
That makes me wonder about, like, are any of these companies, organizations, whoever, are they running numbers that are showing like, well, it doesn't matter what people, you know, the percentage of people that leave us or the clients that we don't acquire, because, you know, this is saving us so much money. I mean, like, is it really though? That's a question that I would love someone to answer, because it's not happening over here for me to give you.
Yeah, I think there's both like this, the hype is incredible around it. And I think like the industry, the AI industry is very motivated to keep that hype going, right? Like they have invested billions at this point and like it's got to pay off. It's got to pay off at some point or the whole thing's going to collapse, right? So I think there's both like this huge rhetoric and like if you compare like year over year, like these executives will say, oh, well, in 12 months or in 18 months, like AI is going to be, you know, capable enough to like take over all of these jobs, you know, like that just happened from our, you know, like our industry just got like that, like kind of put into crosshairs, like maybe 4 months ago. Well, then I also just saw, like apparently a year ago, the leader at Anthropic was talking about how now, like literally right now, because he was talking about this a year ago, all of the developer jobs were going to be gone. Like like now, like that, like, and like how short-sighted, because that's not true, you know, like, yes, like I don't want to diminish or like undersell like what's happening in that industry, because I think it's huge. Like there's big upheavals in development around like what their workloads are, what they're actually being asked to do now. Like the work has changed. But we are nowhere near what I think was being sold, which was like fully autonomous, not, you know, you don't have to like handhold them through everything. They're reliable 99% of the time, or at least to the same degree as a human, but like at the 10th of the cost, right? And that, one, that's going to anger a lot of people, but two, it's not happening. And so now I think, you know, probably within the last month or two, they've been coming out with a lot of reports around how the productivity claims, the hopes that they were hoping to gain from like the companies were hoping to gain from investing in AI heavily, have not really paid off in a significant way. And it's really just creating different work. So like I think about like your notification, it kind of, you know, deluge, right? Like just like that endless stream of notifications. And it's like, well, I don't even have time to make it fix itself. Like I need to tell it what to do to work correctly, but I don't have the time to figure out how. So is it really saving me time? And you know, I think that's the question you were asking yourself, is like, is it actually worth it?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, on a larger scale, I think a lot of these leaders are looking at this now and going, well, gosh, we've gone whole hog in. We've invested money. Our pricing might need to increase now because of how much we've invested. And that's where I think, like, if that's the message that your customers are going to end up getting, because they can tell that you've invested heavily in AI and now it's not paying off, and now they have to pay like more to, you know, because of that, that will not be a great message to consumers or to your particular customers, because, you know, you're asking them to foot the bill for a misstep, like you know, what you invested in.
We're not a country that goes back on things that we've decided to super invest in, obviously. You know, we're not going to try to find ways to revert back to the way things were. They're just going to continue to try and push forward and get everyone on board with AI or robots.
You know, you talk about you always learn from history. On the podcast I do with my friend, just for fun, we were talking about a topic related to this, where like when electricity came out, they invested all this money into like the infrastructure and all of it, but people weren't using it enough because they would only use it at night when they didn't have natural light. So then they partnered with manufacturers and, you know, people to create products that would only run off of electricity, so that they'd make enough money from electricity for it to be a success. So it's almost like, I think that's what we're going to see, is different ways and places AI is being used, where not technically, but like basically forcing you to then use it in different ways. Like, did you need a toaster? No. Did people start getting a toaster because it was faster and convenient? Yes.
Yeah.
So I do think, you know, they've invested. And especially, you know, if the big companies are using it, they're kind of hoping, I think, they can lead the charge. And if they just keep up with it, people will eventually jump on board. So it'll be interesting to see, because there's, I dare say, like, animosity towards people seeing AI be used. So who's going to win? Like, will people continue holding true to that? Will eventually they just get tired of it if no one's listening? I don't know.
I think I'm going to say the very cynical, my opinion on it, just a caveat, not what's true, but just my take on it, is that like at scale, it's going to always chase like where the money is. And so like I do agree with you that a lot of the things that will end up like as like kind of the accepted use cases for AI is like this invisible capability layer on a lot of our existing tools and platforms. And we're already seeing that. So like Figma is our web design tool. That's where the majority of our web design work goes. And they're throwing all kinds of things at the wall, right? Like you can basically have it create an app for you now. You can have like do a prototype of something. And like from our perspective, like we could look at that two different ways. We could say, oh, well, that means that anybody could take Figma now and make their own app. Or we could say, well, we have a team that has, decades of UX design, copywriting, messaging, marketing experience, and we don't just know how to create an app the old-fashioned way. We can take that expertise and we can accelerate our capabilities and make them go a little bit faster. And so that might mean that instead of just being able to like put the strategy together for something, we're actually like building and testing a prototype with the budget that somebody has. And that's what I think I do like about it. Like I'm not against using the tools that are starting to emerge in a way that like benefits the client. Like many of our clients are smaller guys. They don't have Coke size budgets, like period,
Yeah.
And they're really weighing what is going to actually move the needle for me. That is kind of the choice that I think a lot of folks are needing to make in the end, is like, what things will AI make go faster, and like how will you use them so that it doesn't cause any kind of reputational harm or end up harming you in the long run.
And it's like the constant reminder too that it's a tool. It's not a replacement.
No.
If you use a computer, then it's possible that someone might take away your job and give it to an AI.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like and I know that, Rachel, I can't remember if it was you or Sam who mentioned it before, but like it's an opportunity to have these new jobs where there's these AI engineers, but it can't just be that.
No.
I think COVID showed us how important it is for us to have the human element and be with each other. And I'm not saying that AI is like COVID. I'm just saying that
it feels monumental. It feels like world shifting in the way that it was.
It's something that threatens the human element in our products and services, and I feel like we've always been terrified of that kind of thing. That's why we have movies about it. That's why, there's like documentaries about how robots are taking over things, but like being pushed on us so hard. I didn't ask for Gemini. It just showed up in my Google. I couldn't be like, no, I don't want it. I mean, yes, I think I could turn it off, but who has
you'd
time
have to figure out how.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think it is scary and intimidating for a lot of people, myself included, because you're inundated with it. And there's that sense of, I can't control the big picture. I can't control what corporations are doing, what the investors behind this are doing. So I think, which it feels like the whole theme of this episode has been all of us in different ways talking about what we can control. We control our intention behind it. We can control how we use it with our clients. We can control how we explain to them, so the decisions they make, whether it's with us or other vendors, can help them decide and dictate how they then use it for their business and in their lives moving forward. So to end the episode on like a positive note, I think it's important to remember that you do have the ability to control how you use it. And like all of us have mentioned one way or another, there are positives and there are excellent tools that can help us, can really benefit our clients, especially when funds are limited. but to remember that you don't have to go all in the sense of you're letting it put the entire project together, because they were needed. Don't forget that, guys. Like, you know, the human element and the creative element. So I just think it's so important to always, whatever you do, always lead with intention and thought behind it. Just in the way you do things and how you start to incorporate the tools that are accessible.
If anything, here's a call to action for anyone who's listening. Use your AI to come up with your AI statement for your website. Tell people how you are using AI up front so that you are building that trust to begin with, instead of using it and then letting people assume or not assume what's going on. Just be upfront about it. Let people know very upfront. Like I've said this so many times. Is it blurred? Okay, it's not blurred. It might be backwards for you guys, but it says researched in part with AI, verified 100% by humans. I would rather know if you're using it or not and how it's being used. Just like there's terms of privacy on every website, or how we share your confidential information, like it doesn't have to be super flashy or anything, but it is something that every business should have, is an AI policy. And they should have some sort of statement on whatever they use as their, storefront. It doesn't have to be a brick and mortar. It could just be the homepage of your website or whatever, that lets people know that either some of this was created with AI, or we do use AI when we create our products or services. I just think that that's a level playing field for everyone then.
I think that, like, the point that you made, like the summary that you just made, Sam, was really, like, I think it brought up for me, like, how CreativeFuse just runs in general, which is, like, we're very relationship led. Like, this industry is one where, like, we want our clients to feel cared for, and we want them to feel like we as their agency have their back and are thinking in their best interest. We're, like, trying to, to center their success as, like, our kind of our defining light for all the decisions we make. And so if that remains kind of the big goal that we're heading towards, is like what is best for the client, then AI fits within that, like, but we may recommend where it fits, and we may say, like, well, we are saving this amount of time, or we are able to do this faster for you because it's enabled by AI, but we are also fact checking, and we are also making sure that we're not, going to put anything out there that's inaccurate or that's going to damage you. Right. And, I think if we think about it in that way, and we are transparent about our policies and how we use AI, then I think we're on the right track. I think we're doing what we need to do in service of the client.
If you believe that strong relationships are the foundation of great storytelling, then the Logic Loop community is the place for you.
Check out the show notes for more ways you can get involved. And we hope you will tune in again for our next episode of The Logic Loop.
Yay.
I really appreciate you having me on today. A really quick about CreativeFuse. We are a marketing, branding, and website design and development agency. We really run the gamut in terms of services within those three buckets. And we love working with clients. I think that's what has all of our team in this industry, is how much we enjoy working with teams. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on. We've done little check-in meetings with Rachel and other members of CreativeFuse. So having you on the podcast was just so exciting, because it's like a very natural progression of, like, the relationship I feel like our organizations already have.
Thanks, Rachel. You're awesome.